My little brother got my fiancée pregnant right before our wedding. So yeah, I broke his damn face and turned their lives upside down. Let me walk you through this disaster from the top, because honestly, I still can't wrap my head around how it all unraveled. I'm a 35-year-old guy, and up until a few months back, I really thought I had things figured out. Life felt like it was finally lining up for me. I'd been with my girlfriend, Chloe, for 7 years. We were engaged. Man, I was head over heels for her. I truly believed she was it for me, the real deal. And for those 7 years, everything seemed to fall into place like it was meant to. But then it all imploded, and now here I am venting on Reddit because if I don't get this off my chest, I might actually lose my mind. Let me give you a quick rundown of my family, since they're a big reason this whole situation turned into a dumpster fire. I've got a younger brother named Logan, and for as long as I've been alive, it's been clear he's the favorite. This wasn't just regular sibling favoritism where one kid gets a few extra cookies or something. No, Logan was the crowned prince. No matter how bad he messed up, our parents were always in his corner. Meanwhile, I caught blame for just about everything. If Logan smashed a lamp, somehow it was my fault for not keeping an eye on him. He skipped school, that was on me too. Apparently I was setting a bad example. It felt like I was stuck in some twisted version of reality where Logan walked on water, and I could never do a single thing right. And the wildest part? My folks, Robert and Diane, acted like this was totally normal. Fast forward a few years. I finally got out of that toxic house when I left for college. Paid every cent of it myself, too. No surprise there, since Mom and Dad's money was always reserved for Logan. Logan? He lasted 1 semester before deciding college wasn't his path. Dropped out and got celebrated for it. My parents actually threw him a party. Something about following his dreams or some crap like that. Meanwhile, I was busting my butt working part-time jobs just to keep my electricity on. And what did they do for him? Bought him a brand new car so he could go find himself. But all of that, that's just backstory. The real punch to the gut came when Logan did the one thing I never thought even he would do. He blew my entire life to pieces. So like I said, Chloe and I had been together for 7 solid years. I honestly thought we were building something real. She was sharp, hilarious, absolutely stunning. Basically everything I'd ever dreamed of in a woman. We met through one of Logan's exes and we just clicked. Looking back now, yeah, maybe there were some red flags I chose to ignore. Logan had this habit of hovering around my life. No matter what I did, he'd always find a way to insert himself, either to compete or to copy. If I landed a new job, Logan suddenly had a brilliant business idea. When I started dating Chloe, he got weirdly curious, constantly asking questions about her. At the time, I thought maybe he was just happy for me. Now, I feel like a damn fool for not seeing it for what it was. Chloe and I moved in together about a year before I proposed. Nothing fancy, we were at home, cooked a nice meal, and I asked her to marry me. She said yes, and for a moment, everything felt like it was finally falling into place. We weren't rushing to the altar. Both of us had demanding jobs, and we were saving for the wedding and trying to put money aside for a future home. Life was full, but it was good. For once, I wasn't drowning in family drama. I felt content. I felt at peace. Then Chloe started acting strange. You ever just feel when something's not right? She was glued to her phone more than usual, always texting. When I asked, she'd casually say it was someone from work. She was going out more too, staying out late, coming home smelling like alcohol and some cologne I didn't recognize. Still, I trusted her. Not once did I think she was cheating on me. And then one night, she dropped a bombshell that shattered everything. She told me she was pregnant. At first, I was shocked, in a good way. We talked about having kids, so I figured it was a surprise, but a happy one. But then she hit me with it, the baby wasn't mine. I just froze. My whole body went cold. The only thing I could think to ask was, "Who's the father?" And that's when she broke down crying. Wouldn't even look at me. After a long pause, she barely whispered, "It's Logan, my little brother. My own damn brother." I swear I couldn't even process it at first. My brain just short-circuited. I mean, this was the same guy who'd stolen every ounce of attention my whole life. Now he'd gone and stolen the one person I thought would always be mine. I told Chloe to get the hell out right then and there. I didn't want to hear a single excuse. Didn't care if she was sorry. All I could feel was rage boiling up like lava, and I knew I couldn't be near her another second. She cried, begged, tried to explain, but what was I supposed to say? She'd been sleeping with my brother. She was carrying his child. After I got her out, I called Logan. I can't even remember exactly what I said, but I know it wasn't calm. Not even close. Logan, being the sly ball he is, tried to play it down, said it was a one-time thing. Like that made it better. And then he had the nerve to say, it didn't mean anything, bro. Didn't mean anything? He got my fiancée pregnant, and I'm supposed to believe it was just a fluke? I pushed him for answers, and that's when he snapped back with, maybe if you'd been a better fiancée, she wouldn't have come to me. That was it. That's when I completely lost it. I jumped in my car and drove straight to his place, ready to put him through a wall. I wasn't thinking. I was just rage on legs. And guess who beat me there? My parents. Logan had called them to do damage control. And of course, just like always, they took his side. My mom started crying, preaching about how family has to stick together, and my dad just stared at me like I was the villain in all this. Logan? He just stood there with that smug grin like he already knew they'd protect him. That's when I snapped for real. All the years of being pushed aside, blamed, ignored, it all came roaring out. I told them all to go to hell. Told my parents they could keep Logan because I was done. Told Logan he was dead to me. And I meant it with every fiber of my being. I got in my car and just drove. No clue where I was headed, I just knew I had to get away. Everything I thought I knew about my life had just exploded, and I was left standing in the wreckage with nothing but questions. And if you think that was the end of it, buckle up. That was just the beginning. I figured I could just pack my things, cut ties, and start fresh, but of course, my family wasn't about to let me walk away that easily. I barely had a moment to breathe before they came at me from every direction. The very next morning, I'm sitting on my couch, eyes burning from barely sleeping. My mind was in overdrive. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Chloe again, heard her voice repeating those words, I'm pregnant, it's Logan's. It was like being trapped in a nightmare that refused to end. I'm just zoning out, staring at my phone when it starts blowing up calls, texts, nonstop buzzing. And of course, it's my mom. Now, I'm not an idiot. I knew exactly why she was calling. But deep down, stupidly, I hoped maybe this time would be different. Maybe she'd finally say, Logan crossed a line and we're on your side. Spoiler, nope. I answer, and before I can even say hello, she launches into it. What are you doing, Ethan? You're tearing this family apart over one mistake. Yeah. She actually called it a mistake. Like Logan had accidentally knocked up my fiancé the same way someone might knock over a drink at dinner. She just kept going, preaching about forgiveness, about how family should come first, and how I was the one being selfish for not trying to mend things. I sat there, phone to my ear, just staring at the wall like, is this real life? Am I the only sane person in this circus? When she finally paused long enough to take a breath, I cut in. Told her flat out, Mom, Logan is dead to me. You can take his side all you want, but I'm done. Then I hung up. It didn't feel good though. You know in movies, when the hero hangs up and feels all triumphant. Yeah, this wasn't that. I just felt hollow. Like no matter how loud I screamed, she'd never really hear me. So I thought, okay, that's it, I'll block everyone and move on. But nah. They weren't done with me yet. The next day, there's a knock on my door. And who else? It's my mom, standing there like she's the victim in all this. I still don't even know how she found out where I lived, but there she was, banging on the door and shouting for me to let her in. I sat there for a minute, head in my hands, just wishing it would stop. But she wouldn't let up. So I finally opened the door. And what's she holding? A damn baby picture of me and Logan, shoving it in my face like it was some kind of magic spell. Look at this, she said, voice all choked up. You two were inseparable. You can't just throw that away. He's your brother. My patience was hanging by a thread. I looked her in the eye and said, he didn't just steal my toys, Mom. He didn't borrow my car or screw up my plans. He destroyed my entire life. But she wouldn't stop. He's sorry, she said, like that word was supposed to fix everything. He made a mistake, but you can't just abandon your family. You're supposed to be the bigger person. And that's when I snapped. All the crap I'd been holding in for years just came pouring out. You always pick him, I said. No matter what happens, you choose Logan. I was never good enough, was I? Well, you know what? You can have him. I'm done. She looked stunned. Like she didn't expect me to explode like that. I didn't plan on yelling. But man, all those years of being treated like I didn't matter just erupted. She started crying. But this time, I didn't cave. I wasn't gonna play that guilt trip game anymore. I told her to leave. When she didn't move, I picked up my phone and said, "If you don't walk away right now, I'm calling the cops." That finally did it. She left, but not before tossing one last guilt grenade at me. "You'll regret this. Family's all you've got." Yeah. "Thanks for the wisdom, Mom." I really thought that might be the end of it. I figured maybe they'd finally get the message and back off. But nope. Later that same day, Logan decided to text me. Dude had the nerve to play it cool. "Hey bro," he wrote. "I'm really sorry about what happened, but let's not make this into a big deal. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I nearly threw my phone through the window. Not a big deal. Like he just borrowed my hoodie and forgot to return it? He got my fiancée pregnant and expected me to just shrug it off?" I didn't reply, just blocked his number and moved on. But it didn't stop there. Suddenly, I started hearing from relatives I hadn't talked to in years. Uncles, cousins, random family members coming out of the woodwork, all ready to drop their 2 cents. "Hey man, you gotta forgive him. Don't let this ruin the family. You'll regret cutting Logan off. Family is family." I swear it was like they were all reading from the same damn script. Like family is family magically erased betrayal. I ignored them all. Then a few days later, I found out Logan and Chloe were still seeing each other. You want to know how I found out? At work. I was in the break room grabbing coffee, and this guy, let's call him Mark, though that's not his real name, just strolls up like we're buddies and says, "Hey man, saw Chloe and your brother at the mall the other day. They looked pretty cozy." I just stood there, stunned. What the hell was I supposed to say to that? I muttered something like, "We broke up," and he awkwardly backed off. But the damage was done. After that, I couldn't concentrate, couldn't think straight. Just kept picturing Logan and Chloe out there like nothing ever happened. Like they didn't burn my entire life to the ground. That's when I knew I couldn't stay in that town anymore. I started searching for new apartments. Didn't care where, just needed to be somewhere far away from the mess. Away from the people. Away from the reminders. And the next step? I had to figure out how to shut the door on my family for good. I really thought things might start settling down after that blow-up. I mean, how much worse could it get, right? But nope. Life had other plans. Just when I thought I'd hit bottom, someone came along with a shovel and started digging. A couple weeks into my apartment search, it felt like the chaos was finally fading. I hadn't heard a word from my parents, which felt like winning the lottery. I was starting to breathe again, focusing on work, keeping to myself, and avoiding anyone who had even heard of Logan or Chloe. And for a brief moment, I thought maybe, just maybe, I could finally move on. So one day I'm at the gym doing my usual routine, just me and the punching bag. That place had basically become my therapy, the one place where I could release all the anger boiling inside without losing it on an actual person. And man, I had a lot to let out. I'm mid-session, dripping sweat, locked into the rhythm of my workout, when I hear my name being called from behind me. I turn around and just like something out of a bad dream, there he is, Logan, standing there, arms crossed, with that same smug, arrogant look on his face like nothing ever happened, like he didn't blow up my entire life. I hadn't spoken a single word to him since that last brutal phone call, and I had zero intention of ever speaking to him again. But now here he was, just casually standing in front of me like we were old pals catching up. Before I could say a word, he hits me with, "Look, man, we need to talk." Talk? Talk about what? What could possibly be left to discuss? He slept with my fiancée. He got her pregnant. What more was there? But I didn't walk away. I just stood there, fists clenched, breathing heavy, waiting for whatever nonsense he was about to spit out next. He stepped a little closer and started rambling. Something about how we shouldn't let a girl come between us, and how family is more important than all this drama. I swear, it took every ounce of self-control not to drop him right then and there. The way he talked about Chloe, as if she was just some random fling and not the woman I was supposed to marry, had my blood boiling. And then he said it. The sentence that snapped something inside me completely. "I mean, bro, it's not like she was really yours anyway, right? That was it?" I didn't think. My body just moved. I swung. My fist connected with his face hard. And the sound it made? I'm not gonna lie, it was satisfying as hell. A clean hit. He stumbled back, clutching his jaw, eyes wide with shock like he genuinely didn't expect me to actually hit him. But I wasn't done. Not even close. Every bit of rage, all the betrayal, all those years of being second best, of being overlooked and stepped on, it all exploded. I grabbed him by the collar and slammed him against the wall. I don't even remember what came out of my mouth, but none of it was kind. People at the gym started to notice. I saw a couple of them moving toward us, probably wondering if they should intervene. But I didn't care. All I wanted in that moment was to make damn sure Logan understood he had finally crossed the one line there was no coming back from. Before I could throw another punch, the staff jumped in and yanked us apart. Logan was holding his face, still stunned, while I stood there, adrenaline pulsing through every inch of me, ready to go for round 2. That's when they started yelling about calling the cops, about getting security involved, and reality slapped me in the face. If I didn't stop now, this was going to turn into a whole new mess. One I didn't have the energy or patience to deal with. So I backed off. I grabbed my stuff and walked straight out the door without a glance behind me. My heart was racing like crazy, my mind spinning out, and I sat in my car just trying to breathe. Just trying to calm down before I did something that would really ruin my life. That's when my phone buzzed. I looked at the screen. Logan. Of course. I let it ring out. He could leave a voicemail for all I cared. Not even 10 minutes later, it buzzed again. This time? Chloe. I stared at it for a second, and against my better judgment, still riding high on adrenaline, I answered. Her voice came through hot and angry. What the hell, Ethan? You broke his nose. He might need surgery. I laughed. I couldn't help it. The idea that I was the bad guy in all this? It was just too ridiculous. Oh no, I said, pure sarcasm dripping off every word. Should I send him a fruit basket? Maybe a nice bouquet? She did not appreciate that. She went off screaming, ranting about how I was selfish, how I didn't understand how hard this had been for her. Can you believe that? She cheated. She got pregnant by my brother. And somehow I was the selfish one. I didn't even let her finish. I hung up and blocked her number. For good this time. I should have done it way earlier, but part of me kept clinging to this fantasy that maybe she'd apologize. That maybe she'd offer something, anything, to help me make sense of the wreckage. But standing there, listening to her spin the story like she was the victim? That was the moment I finally let it go. Chloe and Logan didn't care. They weren't sorry. They were just mad I wasn't playing along in their twisted little soap opera. That night, I got a message from my cousin Natalie. She's one of the only people in the family who's ever had my back. She said the gym incident was already making the rounds. Word was spreading like wildfire. Not just through the family, but coworkers, mutual friends, even people I barely talked to. Exactly what I needed. My personal nightmare, now public gossip. Natalie called to check on me. She said the rest of the family was in full freak-out mode, blaming me for making everything worse. But not Natalie. She got it. She knew how toxic things had gotten. She never bought into that family above all garbage. You did what you had to do, she said. Screw them. You deserve way better. That meant a lot. But still, it didn't stop the spiral. Everywhere I went, it felt like people were whispering. Like they knew. That sideways look, half pity, half curiosity, like they were just dying to ask but didn't want to be obvious about it. I realized then I couldn't stay. Not in that town. Not surrounded by the wreckage and reminders. Not with Logan and Chloe out in the open like nothing ever happened. So I started looking into getting the hell out for real. Didn't matter where. I just needed distance. That's when Seattle came to mind. My company had a satellite office out there, and the more I thought about it, the more it sounded perfect. Clean slate. Nobody knew me. Nobody knew my story. No one would be asking awkward questions or giving me pity eyes in the grocery store. Just peace. God, I needed peace. It wasn't an easy call, but deep down I knew I had to go. I had to get away from Logan. From Chloe. From my parents. From all of them. Maybe then I could start figuring out who I was outside of all this chaos. Maybe then I could finally rebuild. Update 1. So, after the whole disaster at the gym, Chloe chewing me out, and me deciding to pack up and move to Seattle, I figured maybe things would start to chill out. Like, if I just kept my head down, avoided the drama, and focused on my exit, the storm might finally pass. But no. Because of course, nothing in my life ever goes that smoothly. Not with my family. Not with Chloe. And apparently not even with people who barely knew the full story. You'd think packing up a one-bedroom apartment would be simple, right? Just toss your stuff in boxes, call the movers, and hit the road. But of course, nothing in my life ever goes that smoothly. The day after I made the decision to move to Seattle, my parents showed up at my door. I guess one of my aunts or cousins spilled the beans. No surprise there, nobody in my family knows how to keep their mouth shut. Apparently, my parents decided they had to talk some sense into me. I was halfway through boxing up my books when the doorbell rang. And I just knew. Didn't need to check, I could feel it. That sixth sense you develop after years of dealing with the same drama. Sure enough, I looked through the peephole and there they were. My mom had that sad, wounded expression she puts on whenever she wants something. My dad stood behind her with that same cold, disappointed glare he's perfected over the years. Every part of me wanted to leave the door closed. But I also knew they wouldn't go away unless I faced them. So I cracked it open, and before I could even get a word out, my mom jumped right in. "You're really going to do this, Ethan? You're just going to abandon your family?" I swear, it took every ounce of strength I had not to shut the door in her face. But instead, I stepped outside and pulled the door shut behind me. There was no way I was letting them into my space. I leaned back against the door, arms crossed, waiting for the guilt trip I knew was coming. "You can't just run away from your problems," she said. "Moving across the country isn't going to fix anything. You need to stay and make things right with Logan." Make things right with Logan? I just stared at her for a second, wondering if we were even having the same conversation. I kept my voice calm barely. "I'm not running," I said. "I'm starting fresh. I don't want to fix things with Logan. I want nothing to do with him, with Chloe, or with this family." That's when my dad chimed in. "This is ridiculous, Ethan. You're being childish. You're throwing away your whole life over a mistake." There it was again, mistake. Like Logan and Chloe just tripped into each other's arms and accidentally created a baby, and I was the crazy one for being upset about it. I tried to explain. I really did. But they just kept repeating the same stuff. Family matters, brothers are forever, you only get one family. It was like talking to a pair of malfunctioning robots. Finally, I just said, "I'm moving. That's it. This conversation is over." Right on cue, my mom started crying. Her classic move when things don't go her way. But my dad just glared at me and hit me with the line that stuck in my head for days. "If you walk away from this, Ethan, don't expect us to come running back when you realize you made a mistake." Me, the one making a mistake. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I was so damn exhausted by the whole thing. "I've made my decision," I told him. "If you don't like it, that's on you." Then I turned around, went back inside, locked the door, and just stood there for a moment listening to the sound of my mom's sobs fading as they walked back to their car. Anger bubbled under the surface, but mostly I was just tired. Tired of fighting. Tired of trying to explain myself to people who never wanted to understand. Tired of being the villain in a story I didn't create. So I kept packing. And just when I thought I might actually make it out clean, I got hit with another wave of family drama. A few days later, I got this long, over-the-top email from my aunt, you know, the one who can't mind her own business if her life depended on it. Same old script. I was overreacting. I needed to be the bigger person. I should forgive Logan and Chloe. She even had the audacity to say they were going through a tough time with the pregnancy and that I should have compassion. Compassion. For them. I didn't respond. I didn't even finish reading the whole thing. I just hit delete and went back to packing. At that point, I was almost done. Movers were scheduled, lease signed, countdown in full swing. I could practically see the Seattle skyline in my head. And then came the final punch. The night before moving day, I checked the mail one last time and found a letter. No return address, just my name scribbled in handwriting I didn't recognize right away. I opened it, and there it was, her name at the bottom. Chloe. Just seeing it made my stomach twist. The letter was exactly what you'd expect from her. All smooth words, fake apologies, a lot of, "I never meant to hurt you," and, "I hope one day you can forgive me." But the worst part? She included an ultrasound picture, an actual photo of the baby. Like that was supposed to soften the blow. I just stared at it. That little black and white blur was supposed to be mine. That should have been our child, Chloe's and mine. Not hers and Logan's. That should have been our future. Instead, I was packing up my entire life and fleeing the city while they were probably picking out baby names and playing house like nothing ever happened. I crumpled up the letter, dropped it in the trash, and didn't look back. The next morning, I packed the last few things, met the movers, and left that apartment behind for good. Driving to Seattle, I kept thinking about everything. There was this voice in the back of my head asking if I should have handled it differently. If maybe I should have tried harder to make them see the truth. Or if I should have walked away from all of them a long time ago. But honestly, none of that mattered anymore. I was gone. I was finally free of the people who had let me down, hurt me, and made me feel like I was never enough. I was starting over. At least that's what I kept telling myself. Update 2. So yeah, I made it to Seattle. I had this idea in my head that once I crossed state lines, everything would magically reset. Like some invisible line would wipe the slate clean and I could finally breathe again. But turns out, life doesn't work that way. Those first few weeks were rough. Don't get me wrong, it felt good to be away from the chaos. No more Logan, no more Chloe, no more surprise family visits or guilt trip voicemails. But the silence was loud. I didn't expect that. After months of chaos, people banging on my door, phones blowing up, drama at every turn. It was weird not having anyone yelling at me. I found a small place in the city. Nothing special, but it was mine. Just mine. And honestly, that was the most important part. The first few nights in Seattle, I didn't even touch the boxes. I just sat on the couch, surrounded by half-packed memories, trying to wrap my head around how fast everything had unraveled. One minute, I was planning a wedding. The next, I was sitting alone in a new city, halfway across the country, trying to start over like my old life never happened. But it had happened. And now that I was finally alone, all of it came crashing down at once. Reality hit me for real on my first day at the new office. My company had transferred me to the Seattle branch, which was at least one less thing to worry about. I didn't have to job hunt on top of everything else. But the moment I walked in, it was obvious my past had somehow tagged along for the ride. The introductions were standard. Awkward smiles, handshakes, the usual "where you from, what do you do" kind of thing. Everyone seemed polite enough. I thought maybe, just maybe, I'd actually get a clean slate here. But then came lunch. I was sitting a few tables away when I overheard two coworkers whispering. They had no idea I could hear them. One of them leaned in and said, "Hey, you hear about that guy who punched his brother? Something about a fiancé?" Came from the other office. My stomach dropped. Just hearing those words felt like someone sucker punched me all over again. So much for a fresh start. Apparently, the story had traveled. Not the full story, of course. Just the gossip. The twisted, second-hand version people pass around like it's office trivia. I pretended not to hear, kept my head down, but it ate at me. I moved across the damn country and still couldn't outrun it. That night, I didn't unpack. I just sat there, staring at my phone, wondering why I hadn't blocked everyone's number yet. Part of me was still hoping. Maybe someone would reach out with something real. Maybe someone would finally say, "Hey, I get it." But the screen stayed dark. No calls, no messages, just silence. And that's when it hit me. I was really, truly alone. A few days later, I got an email from Lily, Chloe's younger sister. I'd honestly forgotten all about her in the chaos. Lily was the only one from Chloe's side who ever showed an ounce of empathy. She never made excuses for Chloe. If anything, she seemed just as sick about the whole thing as I was. Her email was short. Just said she heard I'd moved, hoped I was settling in okay. She also mentioned that Chloe and Logan were still together. Apparently, Chloe was posting about the pregnancy all over social media, painting it like some beautiful love story, like the rest of us were just background noise in her fairy tale. I didn't respond right away. What could I even say? That it still hurt? That the thought of them playing house while I was trying to rebuild from the wreckage made me feel sick? That no matter how far I ran, I still felt like I was stuck? I just stared at her message for a long time, feeling that familiar tightness in my chest. The next day, I finally wrote back. Just a quick reply, "Thanks for checking in, I'm doing okay." A lie, but one I could type without falling apart. I didn't go into the mess of emotions swirling around in my head. What would be the point? Words weren't going to fix anything. Still, I couldn't shake it. I'd be sitting at work, trying to focus, and then, bam, my mind would drift back. I'd picture Logan and Chloe, smiling over some baby crib, pretending like everything was perfect. Meanwhile, I was stuck trying to pick up the shards of a life they helped destroy. A couple weeks later, I decided to get out for a bit. I hit up this quiet little bar not far from my place. Just needed a break from my own thoughts. It was calm, low music, not too many people. Just my kind of spot. I grabbed a beer, sat at the bar, and tried to enjoy not thinking for once. But, of course, that didn't last long. Some guy ended up sitting next to me. Friendly enough. We chatted a bit, typical small talk about work, Seattle weather, the price of rent, whatever. Then he asked, "So, what's your story? What brought you here?" I paused. Do I lie? Tell him I just needed a change of scenery? Or do I tell him the truth? I took a sip of beer and gave the safe version. Just needed a fresh start. But he kept digging. Kept asking where I was from, why I left. It was like he could smell the pain I was trying to hide. So I gave him a little more. Not everything, just the core. My brother screwed me over. I had to get away. He nodded slowly. Like that unlocked a whole backstory in his head. "Man, that's rough," he said. "But hey, at least you're away from it now, right?" I nodded back. Smiled, kind of. But in my head, all I could think was, am I? Am I really away from it? Because no matter how far I went, the betrayal followed me. It hung over me like a shadow I couldn't shake. Every time I tried to take a step forward, it was there, pulling at my sleeve, reminding me what I'd lost. I finished my drink, paid the tab, and walked home. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything. About Chloe, about Logan, about how, even in a new city, a new job, a whole new life, I still felt stuck. I really believed moving to Seattle would be the reset button. That distance would bring clarity, healing. But the truth is, miles don't erase memories, and silence doesn't fix broken trust. No matter how far I run, the damage is still there. That betrayal carved something deep into me, and some days it feels like that scar's never going to fade. So yeah, here I am. New city, new job, new routine, but same old pain. And if I'm being honest, I don't know if I'll ever be able to truly let it go.